it shows that they're not sincere.
Yes.
Because
exactly.
every Muslim, every single one, it doesn't matter what sect they are, has told them that the Quran talks about freeing every Muslim. I don't agree with Zoo and all of them on a lot of things, but that's what every Muslim has literally said to them. No Muslim's gone and said, "Oh yes," you get me. So for me, that the conversation is now not sincere in it, and I'm saying that if there's going to be this big uproar, when people say that the thing's here for freedom, yeah, and abolishment of slavery. But there's not a big uproar when someone's literally calling to enslave people. I'm saying that,
this is my argument, Respect. Some of these people, when they make criticisms, so these guys on the other side, they think, oh, we're just criticizing. My perspective is, if you criticize, if you ask questions, all this shit, it's totally fine. But if you have an issue where you've been answered 10 times and you continue to repeat it and you just ignore the answers, this is where it's Islamophobia. That's exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
Like, I'll show them that the Prophet said that with captives, like, you have to treat them like your family. Yeah. So obviously we're dealing with human rights, but they'll ignore that. The next day they will talk about the whole system as if the Prophet, peace be upon him, didn't say these things. Do you know what I'm saying? As if the story of Zayd and do you know what I'm saying? There's so many stories. Do you know what I'm saying? As if they don't exist, and then they'll deal with isolated hadiths like that, like no one's heard before, that Islamophobes use, you get me? And won't deal with the Quran and the Prophet, peace be upon him, holistically. So for me, but obviously for me, it's not like, when people say there's beef, it's not beef. Like, literally, they're attacking people that believe in God, and people that believe in God are defending their position. It's not even like people that believe in God are really attacking atheists. Do you know what I'm saying? Even though they don't believe in nothing. But like, so it's like, when people say there's beef, I don't understand what they're saying, because it's like, they're attacking.
Yeah, Hassan, you go to sleep. Can you please put the link in for Green Mambu? I've cloned the group for him because he wants to join the panel now. But just put the link in for Green Mambu. I've cloned the group. He said
the problem is he can't. Because it's a fresh group. Okay, yeah, I'll give it.
Yeah, I've cloned the group because he was quite upset that he wanted to join the call. I will go sleep, bro. Have a good night. I just did that for Green Mambu.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, buddy. Good night, man.
Green Mamba is didn't talk, so that's why he got kicked out. But yeah, so I'm saying that obviously, if man answers a question, or if you deliberately leave out certain information, do you know what I'm saying? Like, deliberately, specifically, when you're talking about a thing and you always talk about it in the isolation of the Prophet Muhammad being some barbaric slave trader that enslaved black Muslims. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think whether you're Sunni, Shia, Quranist, like, you can all stand in solidarity against that narrative. And I think more time there's people that will pitch different people, even like the pork being haram and slavery being allowed, like stuff like that. That's stuff where people that read the Bible, people that read the Quran, we should all be correcting the fallacy and explaining, social norms and these things. But instead, there'll be a lot of people being more pitched against each other rather than just dealing with the actual conversation at hand. So yeah, for me, it's not a beef thing. It's like it's ideological, isn't it? Do you know what I'm saying? It's just an ideological thing. Like, if someone makes a claim about me, or
to free a slave, you've got to own a slave. Is that correct, Respect? In order to free a slave, you've got to first own them, haven't you?
Just want to interject here on Respect's behalf. He might not want to interact with you.
Don't be shook. No,
I don't think he wants to speak to you.
It doesn't matter if he wants to. I'm asking him a question.
Rod, you can't force people to speak to you.
I can't force them, but I'll ask the question. In order to free a slave, you're going to have to own a slave, aren't you? Yes or no? Now, answer the question first. Now, answer the question. Anybody.
If your intention is to free that slave, no.
If you ask a question and you keep on cutting people.
All right. So to anybody on the panel, in order to free a slave, do you have to own him first?
All right, Hassan Sabbah.
No. So you don't have to own him first in order to free him.
No, because you're freeing him before you even paid the money. You're telling me.
Wait. Let's put it this way, yeah. Hey, Raj.
What?
When did let's say, for argument's sake, you're trying to imply that the Prophet owned slaves.
No, I didn't say that, did I? You're putting that on me.
One minute.
I'm asking you a very simple question. In order to free someone, you must enslave them first. So in order to free somebody, if I say I'm going, if I say I'm going to free you, that means I own you. Is that not correct?
Are you there?
No.
Yes or no? So how do I free someone if I don't own them?
You buy them out. You're buying them out of slavery.
What do you mean?
Dan, are you there?
Basically, you're freeing the person instead of using violence.
Too many people speaking. I can't hear.
All right, so I'm asking a very basic question. Everyone's triggered.
Dan, before I go,
don't run, devil man. Don't run, devil man. Don't run, devil man. You're an open panel saying everyone jump on. When I jumped on you, you won't let me on. So let me say something. Selloutspect. You're shook.
Raj, I will kick you.
Raj, why did you join, bro? We weren't even talking about this, Raj.
It means that I've won. It means that you're shook.
Raj, we weren't even discussing this, Raj. Why did you do that?
No. You're not asking about slavery. You're not talking about slavery. You're not saying,
Raj,
we weren't talking about slavery. Raj, we weren't talking about slavery.
Raj, we weren't talking about slavery.
Islamic slavery, they feed people. Islamic slavery, they allow you to go toilet. Islamic slavery, you can watch TV.
Raj, I can't hear.
Dan, talk.
Oh, going on. Oh, Dan, you're back. Oh, I didn't hear you.
Yeah, sorry, I'm here. Sorry. What's going on? What happened? You asked about what, Raj?
So I was listening, and obviously, I heard a bit when they said, well, in Islamic slavery, the whole point of the slavery was to free people. It was to abolish slavery. But 1,400 years later, there's still slavery. Not a very good plan, was it? Now, I said, in order to free someone, is it, and I'm going to ask you this question, Dan, and answer it seriously. If I free you, in order to free you, do I have to first enslave you? Or have you?
It goes back.
Yeah, so first of all, you have to have a slave.
Dan, we weren't even discussing this, bro. Can you ask him to stop? Can you ask him to go away?
No, because you lot are doing a disservice. You're trying to sugarcoat.
One second.
It's a disgrace.
Dan, the thing is, Dan.
You're sugarcoating slavery, which is a disgrace. Just say outright that slavery is wrong. No matter what.
Right, so the point that you're making isn't even that. Just
hugging on the mic, man. Question, and then he talks over everyone.
Literally.
So let him tell him to put his mic on mute, or I'm gonna have to kick him and then leave.
Oh yeah, don't worry. I'll come back on a different account anyway.
But Dan, he's asked a question, but he hasn't let anyone answer for the 5 minutes that he's been on here. Do you get what I'm saying? Bilal was a slave. Abu Bakr paid. No one owned him. Abu Bakr paid for him, and then freed him. So no, you don't have to own a slave in order to free him. You can buy their freedom. There's your answer.
All right. So that's one case out of how many? Hold on 1 minute. There's one case out of how many? Yeah, there's probably billions of people that have been enslaved, millions under the Islamic version of slavery. They were
not Islamic version of slavery.
1 minute.
Let's not even talk about this, man. I'm not going to do this, Raj.
Let me finish.
We're not talking about this. We weren't even talking about this. Bro, you have no respect at all for Dan's channel. We were not talking about this.
The chat. Was you talking about?
No. Sorry, Dan. I'm so sorry. You can come back on his other chat panel, on his other thing, because I'm leaving anyway. Yeah, but bro, this guy, he has to be moderated, fam. Like, it's not.
He needs help, bro. He actually needs to see a doctor, man. Something's wrong with him.
I don't mind like having a conversation on your panel, Dan. You already know. Like, he asked the question. Yeah, do you have to own someone to free them? Dan, did my answer prove that you don't have to own someone to free them?
Bro, we were discussing. You might have given an example.
Dan, we were discussing how.
Sorry, hold on.
We were discussing.
You were talking about. You were talking about the Fatimids, right? You're talking about the Fatimids.
No. What we were discussing how Islamophobes, how when they get answers to certain things, or when they get clarifications, or they understand how the majority of the people they speak with that are Muslim, how they feel about certain things, they don't care. They continually bring it up and they just ignore the other stuff. One of the things was slavery, but we were discussing as a whole in general how they act, and then Raj decides to jump on and just starts whining about slavery.
Can someone tell me where these slaves was acquired since the...
How's it going, people? How's it going?
Who's that?
Rod, man. Rod. Oh, Lady B, Queen. Big up.
Hey, Raj. Hey, Raj, the reanimator.
Yeah, big up the reanimator, man. Like and sub.
Like them blasphemous me.
You think your character? You got a good end of the sticker though.
Yeah.
Your character's cool, man. He's a
I didn't think Lady D was going to be happy with his Empress still.
No, I was like, mine is obviously the pigeon, man. I mean, it's not the most lovely looking creature, is it?
Yeah, but that's your nickname though, and you accept it.
Yeah, I know, but still, I would rather be like a lion or something. Yeah, like no one wants to be a pigeon on the thingy, man.
Raj, how was your show last night? What was it about? I woke up and saw the
because Dan is now in the pocket of Respect. They chucked me off the show. He sniped me because they were having a show with Hassan Sabbah. You know this little cuck on the panel, this little puddy da Hassan Sabbah.
Hey, hold on a sec. Listen.
What up?
Wait. Come on.
What?
You know you got to stick to the rules of the show.
Oh yeah, sorry. I'll try not to.
Personal attack.
Yeah, I'll try not to.
Yeah. We're gonna stick to points.
Yeah, I'll try.
He's asked you about why you was having your show. Can you explain that to us?
Yeah. So basically,
I refrain from attacking my Haki Ali Muslim brother. You get me on the panel. The first person to have his head. Yeah, I get it. He's the first person to have his head on the spike on the Sharia. No doubt about it. Yeah, before me as well, because people see me more of a Muslim than him. Big up though. But let me say that yesterday they were having a chat on Dan's channel. Now I'm boycotting Dan's at the moment until further notice because of what happened last night. Because Dan is now officially.
Because they didn't allow you to come in and act like an idiot.
Hey, right. Pause on that point, man. How long do you think you're going to boycott Dan for? How long do you think that boycott's going to last?
Until I need a message.
Until they're talking about Islam and slavery again.
Until I need him for bigger cause. At the moment, I don't really need him. If I need him, I'll go back. I can't compromise on my kind of like whatever.
No, that's listening now, innit?
Yeah, I don't care. I'll tell him if I need to use you, Dan, to jump on to give a message out. I'm going to use you. I'll use your channel. Yeah, I will. I'll use his channel.
Was you grooming him? Was you grooming that?
Well, no. I think he's already been groomed by Selloutspect.
This is why you were kicked. You just explained it yourself. It's good.
So let me explain what happened. Yeah. So yesterday, I jumped on the panel a couple of hours before that, and we had a great discussion for like 2 hours. No arguments, nothing. And then obviously I had a few things to do. And then 3 hours later, I switched it back on. And Hassan, Khan, and Selloutspect were all going, "Oh, slavery's amazing under Islamic. We treat them like family members, they're like the pet dog, and they're like our family members. We cuddle them and stuff like that. But they better wash the dishes, and if they try and leave, we'll shoot them in the head. But don't worry, you're a family member," and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And so I was listening. I was going, okay, it was an echo chamber for like 15 minutes about Islamic slavery being this amazing thing. Where they released their slaves.
At least tell the truth, bro. At least tell the truth.
Oh, they released their slaves.
Like don't just blatantly lie. Just at least tell the truth.
Hold on, bro. In a sec. When Raj is finished, I'm gonna let you explain it how you saw it because you was there as well.
Yeah. So we got the recording.
Uninterrupted as well.
Yeah, so you had Selloutspect going, yeah, they released the slaves. Yeah, they released one slave. He become a king. But don't worry about the 500 million other ones that lived in poor conditions and died a slave, being owned by another man. Don't worry about it. One of them become a general. Yeah, big up to the Islamic slave trade. One become a general. He got freed. So I was getting sick of it. I was like, all right, look, no one's jumping on the panel. So there was 5 people on the panel, a total echo chamber of Islamic slavery support, yeah. And so I was like, all right, no one's jumping on. Let me jump on. So I jump on and I ask a very legitimate question, very politely. I wasn't rude. I come and I said, okay, if you free a slave, yeah, okay, fair enough. Do you not have to enslave that person first? Yeah, you have to enslave someone in order to free them, or someone has to be a slave in order to free them. Very simple question. These guys just would not have it. Respect obviously went into his safe space, hid in the cupboard, probably put kind of like, I don't know, I had like 50 guards around him saying, oh, protect me from the big bad Raj. Wouldn't answer my question. Then Khan said no. Yeah, so he said, oh no, you know. So yeah, at the end of the day, then what happened is that I started asking the question. Then Dan, obviously Dan, he's Respect's little poodle. He jumped on, goes, oh, what's going on here? What's going on here? Oh, and then Respect goes, I'm gonna snipe Raj, yeah, if he continues to do what he's doing, yeah. And I was only on there for like 5 minutes. Then he sniped me off the panel for asking that question. And then I was the one that was blamed by Dan, and he wouldn't let me back on the panel, yeah, for around 15, 20 minutes until Respect left.
yeah, and then 10 minutes after, then he sent the link, yeah, and he blamed me for the whole thing. Now, if you listen back to the stream, a lot of times I can be a prick, yeah, and I concede that, yeah. There's a lot of times I'm in the wrong as well. I can concede that. But yesterday, I've listened back to it multiple times, obviously, and I believe I was very respectful, and it was a legitimate question to ask. But because Dan is now, what's it called, a poodle of the Lion's Den, and just a kind of like a, I'd say it's a proxy for the Lion's Den. It's a second channel connected to that one, and you can't have no dissenting views. And Raspect or Selloutspect is now a protected species on that channel. You cannot challenge him because he's obviously a snowflake. Yeah, so that's what happened.
Okay. So
right,
earlier, like 2 minutes ago, when you first started your little rant, you proved exactly why you were kicked off. You made it very clear when you started saying, "Oh, when I need to use you again, Dan, I will." You proved yourself why you were kicked off, because this is the stupidity that you come with. You don't give a shit about the panel. You have no respect for anyone else. You just come through and you're like, "Yo, everyone pay attention to me. Let me start screaming and shouting about whatever topic I want." That's so fucked. And if the channel, for example, was owned by Raspect, later on we wouldn't have had Zubida and Raspect on at the same time. This is not how it works. And generally, Dan always treats you well. But just to clarify yesterday what was happening, we were discussing about Islamophobes and their claims. And we were discussing about, just literally discussing the different claims. Some of them we spent a minute on, maybe we spent 2 minutes on, but just like bringing them up just in a conversation about Islamophobes. Then Raj comes through. "Okay, now tell me about slavery. How can you be a slave without taking a slave?" Like, bro, this is the topic of the conversation was not slavery. We were not discussing slavery in Islam. We were just discussing Islamophobes and how the conversations go on all these panels. But Raj, he's not smart enough to really grasp this. So he kept whining about it, screaming about it, whining about it. Then finally, Raspect's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna remove this guy. I gotta remove him." And then we kicked him. So whatever the way this guy's trying to explain it, it's just bullshit. He doesn't even, he's not even thinking. If he turned on the stream and he listened for 30 seconds,
let him finish.
And then he heard something about slavery in Islam, that's more likely what happened. Then he jumped on, not listening for 15 minutes and saying we're talking about it for 15 minutes, because that's not true. Because anyone can go listen to the stream themselves and see it.
All right. So whether you was talking about for 15 minutes or 5 minutes or 2 minutes, when I switched on, you was talking about slavery. And you was promoting slavery as being some kind of great thing that you release your slaves. There was no dissenting views. There was no one challenging you guys on that panel, and it was an echo chamber. The panel was open, so I jumped on to say okay, and I asked a legitimate question, and you was talking about it at that precise moment. Yes or no? When I jumped on, was you talking about slavery when I jumped on? Yes or no, Hassan?
Yeah, in the most brief manner, not the way you're talking about it.
Calm down. So at the moment you was talking about slavery, I decided to jump on and say, okay, what about, because you guys, if you listen to the stream, they were saying, especially Selloutspect, that, oh, the slaves are like their family members, and we released the slaves. That's the main thing about releasing the slave. But it didn't kind of like put the main part of it, which is that in order to release a slave, you must own them first. You've got to own a slave to release it. You can't release nothing. So when I jumped on there, I asked a legitimate question.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
After you finish,
So I asked that question, and obviously Hassan, is somebody that believes that saying that slavery is wrong is Islamophobia. Like if we wanted, they were saying this as well, that if we ask a question and then they reply, we have to accept their answer. And I'm like, no, if I don't agree with your answer, I will keep on asking you the same question, and I'll keep on challenging you on that. Just because you believe you answered it, it doesn't mean people can't ask you the same question. You do understand that, Dan, Hassan, don't you? You could tell me your reasoning for it a million times. If I disagree with you, am I allowed to challenge your reasoning? Yes or no? Am I allowed to challenge your reasoning?
No,
yes or no?
You've gone too far.
No. Let me ask Hassan, because we're talking about. So, Lady D, but
I'm just waiting for you to finish, bro.
Yeah, I'm asking you a question. If I don't agree with your,
I'm waiting for you to finish.
All right, sorry, Lady D. So if I don't agree with your justification or reasoning for a
right,
particular
we'll get to that in a
thing,
minute. I've got two more
am I allowed to
questions.
challenge you as much as I
Two
want?
more important questions, Raj. Hold on. Wait 1 second. First important question is this. You're not saying you're discussing Islamophobes and what they're saying on other panels. So what is an Islamophobe? And give me an example of what kind of things they might be saying that may be Islamophobic. And then secondly, how the hell are you not sitting over there trying to justify the Arab slave trade, or should I say the Saharan slave trade? How do you find any justification? Please let me know.
Belly, did you want to ask your question before I reply?
Yeah, I was just asking, like, although it's written down that if you're a prisoner of war, or captive, you're a slave or whatever, you're supposed to treat them as your family member. I think that we have to be honest here, that even if it was written down like that, it's going to be highly unlikely that the people was actually treated like a family member, innit? Because you would never enslave a family member, innit? You know what I'm saying? That there wouldn't be a family member that you keep at your house that couldn't ever leave and had to do stuff that you told them to do, even though they didn't want to do it, unless it was your children or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, but like, I mean, like an adult that knows what they're supposed to be doing, and you know what I mean?
Okay.
That's why I don't see how you'd really have a slave and they would treat them like your family.
Okay, so first, just to address Lady D's question. Yo, Lady D, just to be clear, no matter what this pigeon says, if anyone believes that.
Oh, all right. So you call me a pigeon, and you're saying that.
Yo.
Okay, fair enough.
Raj,
he showed up shit talking me, and I call him a pigeon. And he starts crying.
Yeah, I just want to show you that you're not as moral as you think.
Because you shit talk me and then I reply. Are you even listening to what you're saying? Anyways, so Lady D.
Answer Lady D, man. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, so Lady D, no matter what,
no
matter what other flying animals say, please don't believe that at any point in time any of us were ever justifying slavery, quote unquote. This is the way that he's trying to present this is totally false. And at the same time, I explained what Raj's position was, because I've actually discussed this with Raj before on Raspect's channel, the exact same thing. And Raj's position was he would rather have his family die. He would rather have his family die, his wife and kid, than to have them taken in by another family and treated as though they were their own family. So this is what Raj said.
I would respond to that after you said.
And I said that's fine, Raj. That's up to you. If this is what you believe is more just to do it that way, I don't believe that's more just. I believe that it's more just to allow if I have children or whatever, for them to be cared for and instead of killed. Because if you leave someone out, back then it was like a barren wasteland, and it was like pirates roaming around. So your family's basically sentenced to death if they're left without a what's called a caregiver back then, which would have been the male of the household. So, it's just like a death sentence basically. And the idea was that the guidance that was given within Islam was to temper this and to try to provide guidance on how to avoid this. But there was no justification of quote unquote slavery. It was just trying to deal with what was happening at the time.
Can I respond to that now? Because you've made an allegation that I think is false.
Yeah, sure, we can. But I'm just trying to think about if there's any other claims. Lady, did you ask another question? Oh, you're asking about Islamophobes. So when I say
hold on a sec. Let me just ask Hassan a question there, yeah, on that point there.
Sure, bro. Yeah, go.
Because you're saying that if they was taken, if they was left to their own devices, then they would have been killed by like pirates or barbs,
or taken as slaves by worse people. Yeah, 100%.
By worse people or whatever, yeah. But what about when they was freed then? What was it?
So the guidance is generally, like, I'll give you an example of the guidance. So if you firstly, let's say that a man dies in battle on the other side. Let's say he leaves children. You're supposed to take the children in. You're supposed to treat them as your children. Treat them the same as your children. If they have assets or property, you're supposed to hold the assets or property. Avoid using any of them. But if you need to, you use a tiny bit to survive. And then once they're old enough to take care of themselves, then you should let them go and give them all their assets. This was the guidance. This is for boys. For women, I have to go look more into the details, but if they were left to leave on their own at basically at any age, it would have been super dangerous for them. So, because they didn't have like prisons and stuff back then. It's not the same as what we think today, you know.
Belly, let me challenge you to Kia. Obviously, he does a lot to Kia. So I didn't say that, you know, I want my family to die rather than be in someone's custody like the way you made it out. I said if I was in a war, obviously you can imagine me warring, yeah, Raj warring. But imagine if I was in a war and I was killed and my people were killed and my mother, my sisters and stuff, my nieces and stuff were left, yeah. And I knew the opposition, yeah, has a concept of right-hand possessors where they can enslave you and have sex with you. This has happened in India, yeah, to Sikhs already. And I would say this, I'll tell my sister, my mother and everybody, fight to the death if you can. Don't let yourself get captured. These people are going to not only enslave you, but they could have sex with you. I'm not having the enslavers of the people that killed me and my people having that right over them. Now, would they be, well, am I saying that I want them to die? No. I'll say try your best to fight to the death. Try and escape as much as you can. If you've got to run and they kill you, okay, I'd rather you be free and try to be free than be held captive and be used as a concubine. Is there anything wrong with that?
So what you just said right now is actually fair. What you just said right now is totally
fair.
That's a reasonable argument.
That's what I said.
Clear, though,
that's what I said. No,
I absolutely swear that you did not say this argument at all.
No, we will find that recorded. I've never had any other argument. No, I can guarantee you.
I swear on everything you did not say this argument.
Do you know why?
Today you're saying the argument.
Do you know why?
It's acceptable.
Right, so
but I'm saying 100% you did not say that argument.
Let me respond to you. Yeah, there's one thing I know, yeah, that I've always been consistent on. And the reason I'm consistent on is because since I've been a kid, we've been told about the story 12 baje Sikhs pagal honde, which means at 12 o'clock Sikhs go mad. And the reason they used to go mad is because Sikh women were captured by the Mughals and made into concubines. And the Sikhs used to militarily get themselves together at 12 o'clock at night and do guerrilla tactics and capture their women back. I know for a fact because of that, and we know firsthand how the Mughals would use females as sex slaves. I've always had the position that if my family was ever captured, I'd rather you go down fighting than be captured by them. Now, if they get captured and they tried their best, am I gonna begrudge them? But at least try. Don't just put your hands, because Sikhs, we believe in even the females fighting. So the females within Sikhism have to also carry a kirpan, which is a Sikh dagger. Ask yourself why. Why are they carrying the females, all women that get baptized or amritsar? Why do they have to carry a dagger? The same as the men. Because we believe the women should fight to the death as well. Is there anything wrong with that?
What you just said right now, this is actually all fair and very reasonable.
No. I've said this. Don't try and lie about me, because you're lying about me. And I'm not accepting, because I would never say anything different. I've never said anything. I've had the same position since I was a kid.
I don't believe that generally right now. I don't believe that even you think that you're lying. I don't believe that even I don't believe that you're like, yeah, that you're actively or consciously lying. But I'm telling you, in that conversation, this was not the explanation that you gave. It was not that you said, oh, it's because of what I know about them being that would make the girl concubine, so I'm going to make sure that they escape. Because I remember we were discussing this very clearly. The options were presented in front of you, that would you rather have your children be raised as though they were someone else's kids, or would you rather they be killed? And you said, I would rather they be killed.
You're a liar, man.
And I remember, because I said to you very clearly, I was like, Raj, how can you say that, Raj?
Never, you're a liar. Bring the audio.
To say it.
Bring the audio. Bring the
audio. I remember actually literally word for word saying,
bro, Raj, he's a liar. He's a liar. I would not accept this. It's a lie.
One sec. Hassan, was the context of these kids being enslaved, though? Is that where Raj is saying he would never have that? He'd prefer them to be killed?
Exactly.
No, I didn't say that.
Hold on, Raj, let me ask you this. Hold on, Raj. Were you saying that when he's talking about raising the children in that way, it's under your understanding that means they're captured or enslaved?
All right, so for me, I don't care if you're saying you're going to treat them like family. I don't care if you give them a goddamn chair, if you let them go toilet 5 times a day. I don't want my people enslaved by no one. I'd rather them fight to the death. Is there anything wrong with that?
So is that the context within which you answer that?
Yeah, I don't care if you treat them like family. I don't want my family to be owned by anyone.
No, I understand that. Just what we're saying, just to clarify, where he's saying one thing, right? As in, he's put it back to you that these two options were, I think they were raised knowing that, you know, that they were adopted, and they had different parents, or the other way around. But when he just mentioned it, he didn't mention the part of the being captured or whatever. Do you get me? So I'm saying, when that's put right back to you without that part, and you're saying he's lying, is he lying if we add the part to it, they are captured or their parents have died in a war and so on? So you're looking at it as they are now enslaved. Do you see what I'm saying?
Let me say something. This guy's doing Takia on the next level. I've never had that conversation the way he went. Maybe my version is not exactly how it went, but it definitely wasn't his way. Because I've always had, they would fight to the death. I have always had the principle that if my family is captured, I would hope, I would still in them fight to the death. I'd make sure they're armed up, whether they're a woman, whether they're a kid, fight to the death. If you get captured and you tried your best, okay, whatever, man, I can't stop that at the end of the day. But I would say every opportunity you got to run, every opportunity you got to get away from them, do it. Because I know for a fact that under the Islamic slave trade in India, they had right-hand possessors being used all over the place. They would have their 4 wives and then they have concubines, yeah? And those concubines are not consenting partners. They are under duress. They are being raped, yeah? And so I'm not having that for my family. Is there anything wrong with that? I don't want my family to be raped by people that killed me. Are you okay with that?
So I think in the comments, Raj, most people agree with you, bro.
Yeah, I'm saying, are you okay that I wouldn't want my family to be raped by the people that murdered me? No, just say yes or no.
When I'm discussing this kind of stuff, I'm not the one that's unreasonable. I can gladly present your point and not lie about it. So just let me just explain my answer here. So what you're saying is totally fair. And I believe that maybe in your head when you were arguing and discussing this with me that day, this is why you were saying what you were saying. So that's fine. But when we were discussing, you didn't say that why this is the reason why out loud. And right now, even you said, I would hope that they fight to the death. So I said, okay, fine. You'd rather have your 6-year-old daughter fight to the death than be taken in by a family. And according to the regulations or the rules that they've been given, that they're supposed to treat them like their own child, you choose which one. You said you'd rather have them die. But right now you're saying about the stuff that because of other information that they'd be treated like a concubine. That's fair, Raj. That's actually fair. I would probably tell my kid the same thing, bro. You're not letting me even talk, bro. You're cutting me off.
Answer this question.
You're cutting me off again. Can you let me talk? Can you let me talk?
It's important. 1 minute.
No, can you let me talk? 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 Can you let me talk?
Then get to the end of his point, and then you're going to make your point uninterrupted. What we need to do with each other, let each other finish each other's sentences, whether we disagree, agree, whatever, let each other finish the sentence, because it's annoying for the other person, or for the person that's talking when you get cut off in it.
Well, make sure you answer my question after this, though.
Under the same circumstances, if I believed that, even if I was told, let's say, oh no, we're going to treat them like family, but then there was other evidences that said, oh, they're going to be treated like concubines, I would also not want my daughter to ever be captured. And I would probably rather have her die. Yes, absolutely. So I would actually agree with Raj, with what he just said. I have no issue with that. But I'm just saying that when we discussed that day, this extension saying, oh, because they would be made concubines, that part wasn't said. It was just that I would want them to fight to the death. I'd rather that than they be taken as slaves. That's what Raj said.
Oh, all right. So okay. Can I respond?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So take the concubine bit out. Even if my son was captured, I'd say fight to the death. Now, I'm going to ask you this question. The 6-year-old girl, the hypothetical 6-year-old girl, could she, at some point become a concubine when she's older? Could she?
I don't know. I don't know enough about the details about it because.
No, I'm just saying, as a hypothetical,
we have rules about.
1 minute, as a 6-year-old girl, is captured. As she grows up, she becomes like a 16-year-old girl, whatever age. Is it possible, even if it's unlikely, is it possible that the person that's captured her could actually go into a sexual relationship with that 6-year-old girl who captured, but is now an adult?
Yeah. So I don't know if you.
Let's say the question.
Yeah, Raj. So I don't know if you listen.
I'm not finished.
Can I answer?
Say yes or no.
You asked me a question, bro.
I don't.
No, I'm not going to answer that.
Yes
you can continue.
All right, so we know you're going to say yes afterwards. So this is the problem. I don't care if you capture my people and you treat the kids nicely. If that kid, when they grow up, could be a sexual partner of the person that looked after them as a child, you're sick. Yeah, I am not allowing that for my family. I'll tell them straight. If these people capture you, fight to the death. Fight to the death. Try your best to whatever you can, man. Try and fight to get out of there. Yeah, because you have just confirmed that the 6-year-old, hypothetical 6-year-old, if she grows up to be a beautiful looking woman, and then the captor sees her and goes, okay, I've looked after her since she was a baby, but I actually find her sexually attractive now. He could actually make her into a concubine and the right hand possesses. Is that not correct?
Am I going to be allowed to answer or no?
Yeah, go on.
So, I don't know if you listened to the rest of some of the conversation yesterday, or if you just tuned in for the 30 seconds, but I was very clear that we have guidance about certain things, and then there are the way that people acted. So the way that people acted wasn't necessarily in accordance with the guidance. And this is very clear. So for example, even though we believe that the woman must also consent and there must be agreement from both parties, even in the case of something your right hand possesses, this doesn't mean that people didn't still ignore this type of guidance. That happened. I'm not dumb. I'm not just going to say it didn't happen. Obviously it happened. But according to the guidance, according to what was told and what people were supposed to follow, it wouldn't have been like that if they actually followed what they were supposed to follow.
So you can't. Are you saying you can't have sex with your right hand? So the child grows up.
Not arbitrarily. Not if they don't agree. No.
So hypothetically, if the guy that captured her when she was 6, he then raised her up as his own daughter, but as she hit 16, he was like, okay, this girl is like turned out quite attractive. I now want to, have her as one of my concubines. Could he Islamically do that?
As far as my understanding goes, she must agree.
But could she be a consentive adult, considering the fact that she's under duress?
Obviously, anyone. The argument would. Okay, so just wait. There's further evidences also that, for example, quote unquote slaves, female slaves, they were allowed to go to the markets. They were allowed to go travel on their own, or like with their own mehram. It wasn't how you think of slaves today, like them being locked in a basement and they're not allowed to leave anywhere. Or else
I didn't say that. Don't straw man me. Don't straw man me.
I know, but I'm trying. I don't
care. Hold on. Don't straw man me. I don't care if you give them goddamn clothing. I don't care if you hug them. I don't care if you take them to the shop.
You said,
if you own them, you are a savage.
You just said that they were under duress, and I was trying to explain to you that the way you understand slaves today is not how slaves were back then.
All right, so let me ask you the question then.
So that's what I meant when you made the duress comment. 1 minute. But as far as I'm aware, the woman must agree.
1 minute. If you was killed in battle, yeah, and you was not a Muslim, and then your sister or your daughter or your mother was captured by Muslims, yeah, and then one of the people that killed you then decided to go into a sexual relationship with one of those females, is your family members a consenting partner, considering you've been killed and they're under duress?
Bro, if there was any type of duress, then obviously not. I told you I'm not dumb. I'm not just going to deny things.
So that's fine then. So you've admitted. What is the difference? Hold on. What is the difference then from a 6-year-old girl who was captured when she was 6 and is still under duress 10 years later when she's 16?
Okay.
How can someone then go? Are you trying to say over time the duress? Are you trying to say that over time, yeah, that the kind of like let's just say the parameters of distress, yeah, reduce? Are you saying that by the time she's 16, she's not under duress anymore? Is that what you're trying to say?
So earlier, Lady D asked about what's an Islamophobe. So right now, Raj gave a perfect example. So right now, I explained this to Raj in no unequivocal terms. We explained the whole thing.
You haven't answered this question. Answer this question.
Let me answer.
No. Answer. You just went to Islamophobia, which is a weak argument.
I'm not done yet.
Let
me answer, please.
Why you are losing?
I'm not going to answer. I'm going to answer your question. No, I'm going to answer your question. Can you please let me finish talking?
Answer the question I posed.
Can you let me finish talking? Can you please tell him to let me finish talking?
Raj, 1 sec. Wise, can I just say something?
No, Isa, let me just finish, please.
1 sec, because he did be quite...
Isa, let me just finish, please.
I hear that. Let me just come in.
Isa,
Hassan,
let me finish, please. So, we spoke with Raj and we explained very clearly about how all of these things work in such detail. And right now, Raj demonstrated that it went in one ear and went out the other because he's bringing up similar things that he already understands. He already claimed to understand. So now all of a sudden, whatever understanding he had, he just forgot about. And the reason I'm saying this is,
I don't agree with you.
Can I finish?
Am I allowed to challenge you and say I don't agree with you?
Can I finish?
Can
I finish? Can I finish? Can I finish?
Because every time we keep cutting each other, yeah, it's going to take hours to get one point across. Let's just get this. Whether you agree, disagree, you can type in the chat how much you disagree as well while he's talking.
Hold on, games you love. You say straight the Sunnis are right. Taqiyya from Hassan and Isa. Are you crazy? What Taqiyya am I doing? Hassan, I want to ask you a question. Were the Moguls Ismaili?
No.
No, they were Sunni.
Right. So I don't get why Hassan is speaking up for them anyway. I don't get it.
I'm not, because we're not talking about the Moguls. We're talking about generally.
No, but I'm saying he gives the example of Moguls, right?
Yeah, I don't care. That's not what I'm discussing. I'm trying to explain this. So the reason I'm saying this, for example, Lady D, is when we discussed with Raj, we explained to him how this would work, how someone would be raised, what types of freedoms they would have, how they'd be treated, all these things. So now Raj is presenting a totally different story, different from what he said he even understood that last time we talked. So we were having a normal conversation, really nice and friendly. We explained things, and he understood, and he didn't say, "Oh, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. There's no way. That's bullshit." He didn't say that. But now all of a sudden today, now it's okay for him to quote unquote question when back then he didn't question. This is an example of what Islamophobes do.
But that's the problem I have there, Hassan. Because don't get me wrong, I understand your point and what you're saying. Like Raj is basically saying one thing one day and a whole thing another day. But does that then make him an Islamophobe? No, not in my book. That makes him a hypocrite. It probably makes him two-faced, but not an Islamophobe.
So Lady D, to say on its own that makes it someone an Islamophobe, no, that's not. So on its own, no, it doesn't make someone an Islamophobe. But these are traits or characteristics of someone who acts like an Islamophobe and coupled with a whole bunch of other things that they do. So, for example, someone like Raj, when he randomly he'll turn on Dan's stream for 30 seconds and he'll hear the words Islam and slavery, and his first thought is, I'm gonna go join the panel and start screaming and shouting about this thing. Doesn't matter what they're discussing, disrupt the entire thing. I'm just gonna go and jump in and start doing this. This is another trait added to the hypocrisy, and then you get to there. So what I was trying to now let me answer Raj's point though. Now let me answer Raj's question now. Let me answer Raj's question now. Let me answer Raj's question now. So Raj was asking about under duress. The idea, and even the way that I've explained it to Raj, and he supposedly understood last time, was someone would be raised within a family as their daughter, the same freedoms and the same treatment as their daughter. Not you're forced to be here, you're forced to be there, you're forced to be here. You are raised as someone's child. So to say that yes, there's duress, at that point in time, this person is worried about sustenance. They're worried about even getting food or shelter when they're really young. And then as they grow older, now they're cared for and they feel like they're part of a family. It's not quote unquote duress like the way he's trying to present it.
Hassan.
All right, you need to let me respond because you're like
Raj, please. I've tried to put this in. I'll get serious, Raj. You can go next. I'm sorry about this. Hassan, I think the bit you're missing is that when you're raising your daughter, you're thinking you're going to raise her and have her married to someone else. What he's saying, the mindset of somebody who might be raising and looking after this person, but at the back of his mind at some point, he might intend to marry her. So when you're saying that to Raj, he's like, that's why he asked you the question, can he end up marrying or having sex with this person he's raising? Do you see what I'm saying?
I agree. I agree with that. Yes, that's right. This presents an issue for sure, but this presents an issue no matter what. Even here, if someone adopts a child or foster parents a child, they can do the same thing.
Hassan, wait. What I'm saying is he's also referencing a history that's directly related to him and his people now carrying these little daggers, and all of that seems to have gone straight over your head. Like he's mentioning things in now reality. They're wearing things now with a memorability of the incidents that have occurred with him and his people. And then you're calling me a homophobe, and that don't make any sense.
Right, so can I respond? No.
I just explained literally the points about why I said things. I didn't ignore it, and I even agreed with him what he said about a whole bunch of stuff. I even agreed with him. I don't know if you heard that.
All right, so well done. Isa is definitely telling the truth. The reason why the Sikhs are so militaristic, and especially they have the policy of the females also being geared up, and ready for war, is because of the situation of the right-hand possessors. Like we knew that if the women folk were captured, that they're going to be used as concubines. So it's like fight to the death. That's just as simple as that. And the children also would have to fight. That's why they would teach them from young to be, you know, to carry kirpans, which they call the ceremonial Sikh dagger. Now, when it comes to you, Hassan, listen here. If you gave me an explanation, like if I ask you a question, you give me an explanation. I say, okay, fair enough, whatever. If I want to challenge you 1,000,000 times after that, that doesn't make me an Islamophobe. I'm not your bitch. Yeah, I can ask you a question as many times as I want, and I can challenge you on your answer 1,000,000 times if I feel your answer is inadequate or I feel you're sugarcoating something. Your explanation of this slavery being like you have a family member, I'm sorry, they're never going to be the family member. If that person is owned by the person, yeah, the individual, they're not a family member. There will always be a slave. There will always be second class. And the fact that, you know, you have admitted that if a girl who was 6 years old then grew up to be somebody that the slave owner found attractive, that he can then have sex with them, then you are actually admitting that this situation, yeah, is a real freaking vile institution. Is it not?
Just waiting for you to finish.
And this is why I separate myself from these Sunnis, bro. So there you go, bro. I don't know why Hassan's defending them, but okay.
So so you're done. Okay. So first, earlier, in case people didn't hear very clearly, I agreed with Raj. I actually said I would also tell my daughter the same thing, to fight and to not be taken. If I had any evidence that the daughter would be mistreated or would be like raped or treated as a sex slave, let's say, I would say the exact same thing that he said. I'm not stupid. And right now he's mischaracterizing. I also said, even today, in today's time, if there was a foster parent or an adoptive parent, if someone wanted to be shady like that, they could still do it. Doesn't mean that it's appropriate. Doesn't mean that it's correct. They could still do it though. This exists. So even back then, the guidance was to do things a certain way. And I've already said very clearly that many people did not follow the guidance. Many people. And by this nature, I don't necessarily agree. I don't necessarily even disagree with Raj's position if that's what it was predicated on. But I don't know. And earlier the comments you made about the Islamophobia thing. When you ask me a question and I explain it to you, and you accept the answer and understand it, and don't have a single quarrel about that explanation, then later on you bring it up again. This is an example. So not to pretend that, not to say that I explained it that day and then you didn't accept it and you had questions still and you were still disagreeing and you thought it was bullshit and all this shit. That's one thing, but that's not what I'm talking about right now, because that's not what happened. That's the difference between the two examples. So the way you're trying to present it is, oh, I can call you out if I disagree. I can call you out forever if I disagree. Yeah, sure, you can. But don't pretend that you accept it then and you understand it then and then call me out 2 months later or a month later. That's the difference. Go ahead.
Yo, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Is there
I don't think we should even bother, you know. I think we should let Issa handle this, because this is something that they're justifying with, I guess, the way that the thing is. Let Issa handle
I just wanted to ask a question on the same subject though anyway.
Okay.
So is there different rules for treating your slaves in like Ismaili or Twelver books, or is it like the same as the Quranic versions?
What it is, because we have about 6 imams in common, right? So ours will generally be similar when it comes to a lot of the, I won't say all the politics, but the general stuff, because we have Imam Ali, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein. We have these imams in common. So the problem with what our brother Hassan's saying, in his mind, he might be describing a situation where there is genuine raising, where, for instance, there's the cousin of the Prophet, peace upon him, I think, where he had like an orphan or something like that, or no, somebody who they were like raised, and they said, you know what, you can go free or you can stay, it's up to you. And I think they went and they came back. Do you get what I'm saying? So he's talking about genuine cases where they literally care about them. But the examples that Raj is saying and what Raj is hearing from those other people, right, is literally what Raj and his people have experienced. Do you get me? So not only has he got the history, but the people are still chanting the same chant today with their religion, right? These bloody pagan Sunnis. So when Hassan is, saying we've explained to you, I'll just be straight. That's your religion, Mr. Sunni, and this is our religion. So I think that becomes a problem if Hassan sort of like tries to explain what Islam says without being clear what Islam says and what they say. Because there are certain Sunnis that can come along and they will tell you straight, ISIS's behavior was Islamic. They will tell you that. Do you get what I'm saying? So I don't know. This is the behavior that Raj's people have experienced, and it's straightforward and as simple as that. So they've got the book.
Yeah. You know what? You made a good point. I didn't clarify that. Generally, the things that I was saying were from the Sunni tradition. So I apologize. We, as Shias, for example, we could have a totally different belief in all of this stuff. Yeah.
All right, so Hassan, you're saying that there's a particular ruling that you can't do this and you can't do that. Now, just say for argument's sake that you're correct, yeah. But let's just say that maybe 40% of the people abused that position, yeah, and they actually went against what you believe the rules and regulations are. Now, can you not see why individuals like myself would say, okay, I'd rather my females and my family fight to the death than be captured by Islamic conquerors?
Yeah, remember I agreed already.
Yeah. So you also agreed. Now, if you just to clarify, you are saying that if a girl was captured at 6 years old, the parents, the actual kind of what you call the owner of that girl, could be made into a concubine. But you're trying to equate that to now fostering. Now, if a foster carer was to then suddenly do that, what would happen to them, do you think?
No. Sorry.
No. Hold on.
The way I was explaining it.
No. You said it's not a foster carer.
I'm answering. Let me answer. Raj, I don't know if you've noticed so far. Raj, I'm not lying about anything, so let me answer.
I'm asking you what would happen. It's very simple to somebody that started going into a sexual relationship with somebody they're fostering or adopted. What would happen?
If someone was like a foster parent of a girl and they were raised, then when they were older, those two got in a relationship. I don't know if there's any legalities against that here. Are there?
All right. So if you're like a 40-year-old guy, and then you started fostering a girl, you adopted her, and then you suddenly went into a relationship with her, I think there would definitely be a lot of frowning. There probably could even be criminal proceedings. Yeah.
When she's under 18.
But you're saying that under your particular system, it wouldn't be frowned upon and it would be accepted, correct?
No, that's not. What?
So I'm asking. Just so you understand, just let me just explain. You have one case scenario that you're saying is like fostering, yeah. And then if somebody was fostering a kid from 6 years old, yeah, a grown-ass man fostered a child at 6, yeah, brought her up as his own daughter. So when she hit 16, he then suddenly looked at her sexually and then went into a relationship with her. He would be definitely would be shunned from the community, and definitely could even be criminally prosecuted for doing that, because he brought a child up as his own and then started to have sexual relationship.
So
you're saying, yeah, and I say 100% people would frown upon him. He'd be an outcast, and he'd be somebody that everyone would be disgusted with. But you're saying if the same scenario happened under Islamic slavery, that somebody that captured a young girl at 6, then said she's part of the family and she's like my daughter, and he treats her just like his own daughter, gives her everything, the clothes and everything. As she grows up, she then becomes sexually mature. He then starts seeing her as a sexually viable partner. He would then go into a relationship with her, yeah, as a sexual partner, as a concubine. I would say to you that under the Islamic version, it would not be frowned upon and it would be accepted. Yeah, and nobody would bat an eyelid.
Yeah. Hold on a second. So based on the evidences, at least from Sunni literature, I agree with you that it wouldn't be frowned upon. But at the same time, it's looked at as though the girl is also agreeing. That's the official stance. Now, some of the scriptures, some of the scriptural evidence shows that that's not necessarily how it was all the time. But according to even like directly from the Quran itself, she has to be in agreement as well. It's not just like it can arbitrarily be done. Now, what you're presenting though is you're saying there's no way that she can be in agreement. That's what you're trying to say.
No, I'm saying
hold on, let me just wait, Raj. Wait. So you're saying that because there's some assumed duress, no matter what, that there's no way that she could be in agreement. This is kind of what you're saying, right?
Yeah, I'm saying that one thing, and also I'm saying that. So just put yourself in the position of somebody that captured a young girl at 6.
I understand, Raj.
Hold on. Let me listen to me. You then raise her as your own daughter. You're going around telling everyone, this is like my own daughter. You're feeding her. You're doing this. You're playing with her and all that. Then at one point, 10 years later, whilst you've taken her as your own daughter, she's playing with your real daughter. You then see her sexually, and then you go into a relationship. Can you not see how morally sick that is? To raise someone as your daughter and then...
So I don't know if you have a mental problem right now. I've repeated it already so many fucking times. How many times do I have to say it, bro? I agree with you, you fucking retard, man. Why do you keep saying... Bro, you keep repeating the whole story to try to fucking mischaracterize and make it look as bad as possible after I already agreed. I don't know how dumb you are, man.
All right, so are you agreeing that this form of slavery is then evil?
Oh my God. I already said that there will be people that take advantage of it and don't do what they're supposed to do. And those people, these situations are absolutely wrong. I said that already, man.
No. You didn't. No. It is allowed.
What do you mean I didn't? Yes, I did.
Hold on. You're saying...
Ask everyone else on the panel. Did I say that already?
Calm down. 1 minute. You said, this is not allowed, under Islamic slavery to go into this. It is allowed. That's the point. There's no repercussions to go into a relationship with a 6-year-old girl that you have captured who then becomes an adult. There's no repercussions.
I spoke about consent. I spoke about that the girl must be in agreement. What you're saying right now is there's no way for the girl to be in agreement. That's what you're presenting. We're not talking about the same thing.
One sec.
I'm saying to you, 1 minute. Really. Please, let me show you. I'm saying this. You've captured a young girl at 6 years old.
Yeah. Oh my God, bro! Stop repeating the same story, man.
1 minute.
Everyone gets it, bro. Yes.
Calm down. You are very triggered, You captured.
Bro, because it's really annoying, man.
No, hold on. I know it's annoying for you because it hurts. I know it hurts.
What?
Because you know
bro,
what you're
I'm not being disingenuous. That's why it's annoying.
Let me finish. You then, bring her up as your own kid. The girl has no idea of anything sexual, so she sees you as a father, for her whole life.
It actually bothers me. It is genuinely bothering me because I already agreed, bro.
Let me finish. You're
actually a sick person, bro. You're sick, man.
You haven't agreed because you said, this is not. You have basically said,
we're discussing two different things, Raj. You're discussing. You're saying that it's impossible to provide consent.
My sentence. Let me finish my sentence. No, you got to let me finish my sentence. I'm trying to say to you that you said earlier that some people will abuse the system. I'm saying to you that when it comes to this situation about somebody capturing a 6-year-old girl and then as she grows up having sexual relations with her, is not abusing the system. They're using the system to their advantage. Can you not see the difference?
Isn't that the same thing as abusing?
No. Abuse. So are you saying abusing and using is the same?
Right, let me explain it.
No. Don't let him off. Please.
I'm going to explain it again to you slowly because you seem to have an issue.
No.
We're discussing two different things. One thing we're discussing is consent.
1 minute.
That's
separate. Abusing and using the same.
What you're saying, right?
No, hold on 1 minute. No. Dude, let me just speak to him. Is abuse, because he said abusing and using are the same. Is it the same?
I understand what you're saying, so let me say it.
No, 1 minute. Are you saying that abusing and using are the same thing?
Abusing and using in a vacuum? Are you dumb? You were using them in a sentence, not in a fucking vacuum, you idiot.
You said abusing and using are the same thing. Are they the same thing?
I didn't say abusing and using are the same thing. I said in the sentence, in the way you said it, in the sentence, they're the same thing. Not the fucking words on their own. You idiot, man, bro. You're actually so dumb, man.
So let me repeat what I said again. Now, hold on, Issa. 1 minute, please. Let me repeat what I said. I said, when it comes to the Islamic slavery, you said that these people are abusing the system if they went into a relationship with this young girl as she grew up. I'm saying to you, they're not abusing the system. They're using the system in order to do it. Because your system is legitimizing. Your system is legitimizing, this form of slavery where you can capture a young girl at 6 years old, and if you wanted to, when she grows up, you can have a sexual relationship with it. So you're actually using the system, not abusing it. You do get that, don't you? They're two different things.
Right, say following. That's what I'm saying, because when you say using, he is that some people understand using in the sense of abuse. You know, like you're using someone.
Isa, when he said using the system to your benefit, generally some people would say, "Oh, that person's abusing the system," maybe because they're benefiting. Oh, it's the exact same fucking thing.
Oh, that's not the same thing.
Bro, if you don't understand how grammar works or English works, bro, why are we
honestly, Hassan, you always go into the I'm an high IQ, bro, but you
but then don't say something dumb, man. I literally explained it to you right now. You can rephrase it, bro.
Everyone thinks you're a savage.
Right.
Hold on, Hassan. Everyone thinks you're a degenerate and a savage for the way you're talking. Look at the chat. Look at the chat. Everyone thinks you're disgusting. So you need to see that
Raj, it worked, bro, by the way, Raj. Raj, it worked, by the way. Yeah. So repeating your story 10 times. It worked, bro. Really great.
Everybody thinks you are disgusting, not me.
Sure.
One sec.
So you need to look at the public disgusting.
Who said that you are disgusting right now?
Hold on.
I'm saying to you, what are you going to say? Because you keep on disturbing.
Did anyone say you were disgusting? I don't remember saying that.
Hassan, wait. What Raj is saying is that people are following the process of the system. When he says use, he means they're following what they're allowed lawfully to do. When he says the word use the system, that's what he means. So instead of abusing or using it to their advantage, Raj is saying they're following the pattern of what they're allowed to do. So there's no injustice, there's no punishment for what they're doing. Whereas you're saying if they abuse it, but he's saying no, it's lawful. So you can't abuse something that's lawful.
Sure. Yeah.
So can I just say something that Miss London Yoruba's written? She said, yes, it would go against current child safeguarding and welfare law, i.e. every child matters legislation. So if you was to have fostering someone,
when they're over 18,
and then you would then go into a sexual relationship with them as you was looking after them, you would be going against law. The whole of the UK, not only would they prosecute you, you would be an outcast in society. The problem we're having with
I'm sure that every child left behind doesn't apply to people over 18.
The problem with your form of slavery is that you have a system which legitimizes having relationships with your captors. That is not only open to abuse, it's going to actually be used, for people's advantage, because there's no way that anybody can go against it. If you said that God said that you can have right-hand possessors and have sexual relationships with them, it hasn't stipulated that if you capture them and look after them, you must treat them like your own child, so you can't have a sexual relationship with them. It doesn't say that. So anybody can have sexual relations with any captors that they have, even if they capture them as a baby. Think about it. They capture someone as a 1-month-old baby. They look after that baby. When that baby grows up, they see that baby as their child. When it hits puberty, they can then have a sexual relationship with them under your form of slavery. Can you not see how that is wrong?
So, for the 10th time, yes, I can.
So are you going to say that Islamic slavery is wrong then?
Now I'm gonna speak now.
No. You've admitted it. You admitted that you agree with me. So, are you going to now denounce Islamic slavery?
So first and foremost, I'm going to remind everyone that's listening about the contextual understanding first. So we have an option. Generally at the time, it was if a man isn't there to protect, safeguard, and care for the family, then the family would be open to abuse, death, or much worse forms of enslavement. This is what the options were at the time. So the guidance that we see is generally meant to deal with something that was happening at the time. So what we do today, we reflect backwards on what quote unquote slavery is, or we let people like Raj describe this terrible scenario just to pull on people's heartstrings and repeat it 15 times or whatever, how many times he did on purpose. That's fine. For me, this example that Raj is giving, I'm not okay with this example. This is not to say though that this is not what happened at the time.
Could it happen?
Society.
No, could it happen?
Can I answer?
Could it happen?
I'm not. Can I fucking talk, bro?
Now, first of all, answer. Could it happen?
No, you shut the fuck up, bro, and let me talk.
Could it happen first? Yes or
Can you let me talk? If you're on some fucking moral high ground, why don't you just shut up, bro, and let me fucking bury myself, bro? If you're on some moral high ground, why don't you just let me talk, bro? Why don't you just let me talk?
This is something that could
Why don't you just let me talk? Why don't you just let me talk?
Could it happen?
Can you shut up, bro?
First of all, could it happen?
Veli.
All right, go on, carry on.
Can you please return to the stream so you can tell his little kid to keep his mouth shut
while other people talk. When we were discussing this specific topic about girls, there's multiple aspects to this. The first aspect was consent. So Raj was arguing that there's no such thing as consent because he keeps providing this example. His position is that there's no such thing as consent. There's no way that someone can consent because they are under duress, and no matter what, this is a form of duress, and they won't be able to consent. This is actually a fair argument to make. I'm not necessarily in disagreement with that argument. At the same time, back then, at least the guidance was that the girl would have to consent. So if Raj is saying there's no such thing as consent, fine, we can discuss that. But the understanding is that the girl must have consented. And yes, at the time, this would have been accepted. But the alternatives are what I mentioned earlier about contextual understanding. You free the person, they will get enslaved, oftentimes even worse, or they will be dead, or they won't have any care, and they'll just die on their own. So the way that we're looking at it is taking today's time and trying to reflect backwards. This is not to say that any of this this is not to say that any of this would be okay today at all. It wouldn't. But we have to just use our brains. That's all.
Have you finished now?
Yeah.
And you're gonna so we've got it here. He keeps straw manning me and saying that I've said X, Y, Z. I've categorically said to you that there is no. First point. If somebody is captured during war and all their men,
I'm going to repeat myself. If you repeat the same thing again, the same question again, there's no point in having the discussion. I'm just telling you right now, if you're going to repeat the same question that I answered already, there's no point in having the discussion. So either you try to be either you be genuine and I will be genuine and kind, or you can act like an idiot and then we're not going to have a conversation. It's up to you.
I'm not doing an overview of what I said so I can clarify the points. I believe that if somebody is killed during war and their family members of females are captured by the opposing force under Islamic ideology, I would tell my family to fight to the death, because my people have experienced that when their females are captured under Islamic slavery, they can be used as concubines, not being abused by the system, but using the system of right-hand possessors. You also, on top of this, that you have a system,
which I already agreed to as well.
Let me finish. You have a system that if you was to say, you lot say that, okay, you get this child, you treat them like your family, you clothe them, you do this. So imagine a 6-year-old girl, you then capture her when she's 6. What happens then is that the captor, it's not funny, the captor.
No, it is, bro, it is. Because you're just doing it as a game now. You don't actually care.
Let me finish.
All right, keep going.
Go ahead. Let me finish. You're triggered. So the captor who killed the whole family then takes the child. He then starts.
And then he's playing with her. He teaches her treats her like his own kid. Then at some point he finds her sexually attractive.
Listen to what Hassan.
Keep going.
Listen to what Veli is saying, man. He's saying, "Let me finish," because you're actually abusing the panel. Yeah. He then captures a child. He then says, "I'm going to adopt her." And using the system, he clothes her, he feeds and stuff like that. But when the girl hits 15, 16, he starts to see her sexually. He can then use the same system in order to now have a sexual relationship with her and make her what you call the right-hand possessors. Now, in that system, there's no one going to frown upon you. No one's going to look at you sideways. No one's going to be able to, criminally prosecute you for doing that. Under the other systems, like what you say, foster care or adoption, if anyone wants to do the same thing within the West or in the UK, those people will not only be shunned from the community, they would also be legally prosecuted. The point is this: if the right-hand possessors and this system is from God, and God is eternal and it will be forever, these systems, why is it okay then but not okay now? You have now agreed today, Hassan, that it's wrong. So I want you to say outright now, as of today, Islamic slavery and everything that goes with it needs to be abolished, and it's wrong.
Why would I say that?
Because you said it was wrong.
I already said in unequivocal terms. I already said exactly the points of this, which were incorrect. But I would never say that someone should be like a family and little kids who are left without a father should be assigned to death or even worse treatment. I would never say that. And that's what you're telling me to say right now.
No, I'm not.
I would never say that.
No,
Yeah, what you're doing is you're saying condemn this.
No, I didn't.
No, what you're saying is condemn this and then ignore everything else.
No.
That's what you're doing.
I'm asking you to condemn all.
You're asking me to condemn it and then ignore everything else. Are you listening?
No. I can condemn
all of them. You're like, yo, condemn this. And who cares if they're gonna die? Who cares if they'll get picked up and treated as way worse slaves by other groups?
Let me finish.
Who cares about all this?
So I can
just condemn this. You're not even using your brain, bro.
I can condemn slavery, and I can condemn people trying to kill them. I can condemn all of it and say all of it's wrong.
Yeah, sure, me too.
There's got to be a better system put in place.
Yeah, I condemn slavery.
You are doing the opposite. You are saying, okay, I'm not going to condemn one because it's a worse option.
What?
I'm saying all of the options are bad. Some are worse than others, obviously, but they all need to be stopped.
Can I
just said that.
Hold on, let me ask something. Because I'm thinking like there are two major parts here. Number one, how people done things in general in those days. So the way women were seen, the way men were seen, the roles they play, etc. So for instance, sometimes when women were captured, they just understood that under culture of war, you were to submit to this man. And you had some women fighting back and saying no. But this was part of the culture, the tribal and whatever culture, just like you had women jumping on the funeral pyres in the Hindu thing. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, we'd look at that now and think this is flipping crazy. So what I'm understanding from Hassan, Raj, is this. He's saying that, which, you know, I think makes a lot of sense. He's saying the alternative was you had absolutely barbaric savages that would rape them from the age of 6. Then you have an institution that says, no, adopt them and raise them. Now, the issue you seem to have is that when you're raising this child, when they form into a woman, there's now the option to marry them. In other words, when you marry them, they're no longer your right-hand possessed. They're your wife. You get me? They're called right-hand possessed, or what's it called? The ones you have an oath with or a contract with of adoption or whatever. They become your wife. Now, you're saying, well, if you're raising them in that way, then you shouldn't be looking at them sexually. Right, but I'm saying from what I know of the Islamic law in general, there would need to be some sort of reason why it's not possible apart from that. So one reason is you breastfed from the same woman, and the other thing is that they're your blood relative.
Can I just
if it's not that?
Right, so then before you go in, James, let me just ask Hassan this. All right, as of today, would you say that that particular form of slavery is unacceptable in today's age?
Obviously.
All right, so
we have alternatives in society, bro. We didn't have that back then.
So you agree, as of today, that should be abolished, that form of slavery, because it's still permitted.
Yeah,
that form of slavery.
100, bro. There's no question asked. I would never even stutter, man. That's what I told you. I'm not disingenuous. I'll be honest.
Yes, you are disingenuous.
No, man.
You are one of the most arrogant and patronizing little pricks I've ever met.
The answer.
I know. Agreeing with you must have been arrogant. Yeah, you're right, bro. Yeah, you're right.
You have taken an L today, no doubt about it.
You have to respond to it. All right. Question, because I heard this earlier when I was out, and Veli asked a really good question, but I don't think I understood what the answer was or heard it. So Veli said, if you're instructed to free a slave, but the reason for taking the slave is for their own benefit, then by your own logic, isn't freeing them a hindrance to them?
So earlier I heard Raj on Faz's channel for like 2 seconds, and he said something about if a child is born, quote unquote, into slavery, like he's talking about how this is so bad and blah 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 back then. And the first answer I had was, yeah, Raj wants you to set them free like a fucking like a lion cub, as if they're gonna survive. This is not how it works. And yes, it is a hindrance.
Did I say that?
Yeah, can you not stop mentioning about, because I don't give a shit about Raj or you.
I don't give a shit.
Sure. So the argument is that you just made, James, that it would be a hindrance, and yes, it would be very unsafe and dangerous oftentimes. Yes.
So then the logic is instructing someone to free a slave is a bad thing?
No. Sorry. So if we're talking about, for example, like a young child, this would be very dangerous. And this, yes, instructing them to free that person when they're a little kid, yes, that would be dangerous and wrong. Yes.
Wait. But you're looking at a unique scenario. I'm saying, so for a general rule, the general rule is you're trying to posit it as I'm enslaving you for your own good.
Hold on, wait. What time period are we talking about?
Whatever you were talking about with Veli, you posited the argument to Veli and said, I don't know. He's overheard you speaking. I haven't heard you speak on this, but
sure.
Are you saying that, generally speaking, that the reason that God permitted certain forms of slavery was for the benefit of the captive? Is that what your argument is?
I would say that oftentimes it was, and oftentimes it was just kind of, I would say, a result of the scenario of the time. So, for example, it would be an alternative maybe to death, or the fact that there were no prisons, or the fact that there's no social service structure where people could be supported. So they would have to be under the dominion of a family or a household or a tribe, things like this. Like it was just as a function of what was available at the time, in a sense. But just to be frank, like, yeah, if someone has a moral objection to slavery, which is their right to do, and if there an argument can be made that outside of the sort of God incentive, you're essentially, this is just some kind of political ideology which is enslaving people and taking people as their captives. And if you lose some kind of conflict, you become essentially a slave by those people. If you remove the God concept, then can you argue that there is justification for a moral objection to slavery? Or are you going to say that they actually made it better for the people that they enslaved? So if we say made it better, you mean like relative to what they were before? Yeah, that's fair. I mean, relative to what they were prior to invasion, yeah. Well, the argument is if there was a battle, generally the times when at least the wives and the kids would be taken as slaves is when the husband would be dead. So there'd be no one there as a... No. I said relative to prior. I mean... Conceivably, God. Well, obviously, then, because you're saying relative to before. If you're thinking relative to before the husband was there, so obviously the husband doesn't exist anymore. So okay, so as far as a woman and a child are concerned, Islam has brought them nothing but burden, and then as a result, they've been enslaved. And then the only benefit. What? Whoa, James, back up. What? Let me make the case. Oh, you didn't hear it. No, I'm trying. Where did that? No, the first sentence you said. Where did that come from? So the women and child who've got fuck all to do with politics, as far as they're concerned, Islam has put them a big burden because now their father is dead and now they're enslaved and they're the property of some man. If you want to word it like that, okay. Yeah, right. And then post that event, the only silver lining is them being released into the wilderness by your own admission, which is a far worse fate than what befell them prior to them being enslaved. That's the logic of that's Islam for them in a nutshell. No, the Islamic guidance is that they wouldn't be released and just let like that. I have a problem with it, James, and I heard what you just said, and I've been listening for a long time and said nothing, and this is why I have a problem with it, because I'm hearing all this bullshit about the alternative is far worse. But my thing is this: why were the Arabs even coming into Africa in the damn first place, enslaving Africans? Why? What is that about? Why is no one talking? Sorry, lady, that's something totally different. I wasn't even talking about that. Sorry, lady D. Yeah. No, I agree, Hassan. We're talking about the time of the Prophet and stuff. We're not talking about that. Yeah, I mean, Lady D, I can look. But then if we don't deal with that, then they're going to keep coming with this whole. But they don't agree. They don't agree that that was Islam, and they don't agree that they don't validate any of the leaders that were in charge at the time of what you'd call the sub-Saharan. Yeah, Lady D, if you want to discuss this another time, we can. I can go like read up on it and research, and then we can come and talk about it. I just don't know enough about it to discuss it. That's not the claim, as far as I'm aware. Yeah, and that's not what we were discussing right now. No, yeah. I know for a fact at least Isa will burn out every leader after Imam Hussein or Hassan, one of the two. So I know that. Yeah. Okay. That's not the case, but on the actual talking about the time of the Prophet now, I'm just trying to look. I'm trying to look at it from the point of view of one of these enslaved people. It seems a bit harsh now because by your own, like, I'm just using your argument, or your logic. Wait, hold on, James. Let me pause for a sec. By my understanding, the battles, they were always generally defensive, or when the other side basically caused it. Okay, that's the first thing. So it's not Islam just decided to bring something where they're going to kill the guys. It's that they were. But listen, okay, so that's the first thing. Huh? Listen, whether or not that's ahistorical or not, I'm not interested in arguing. I'm saying from the woman's perspective. So from the woman's perspective, yeah, obviously, if a husband dies, no one's going to be okay with that.
Hassan, wait, have you heard of Shamila Begum?
But 1 second, Issa, if she didn't take up arms, this is my point, right? If she didn't take up arms, because you have to remember as well, and I take your point about Shamima Begum, Issa, but we're talking about someone from this country going into a foreign land, right? to fight.
Even
no, she never lived. She never lived in Syria. So her being involved in that shows a clear motivation. But if a woman grew up in Syria and was unfortunately was an Alawite or was a different kind of sect or denomination, and then as a result of her own culture is embroiled now in some war between tribes, that is not nearly the same as a woman who willingly chooses to be a terrorist or to support.
No, hold on. Listen to what he said. Listen to what he said.
You're going to focus on the minutia. You're going to get off the top.
No. Hold on.
I'm trying to hammer that point. Let Hassan respond. Yeah?
No, hold on. Let me just say this so Hassan understands, because he's in America.
I dealt with your point quickly.
No, you haven't, because you said a terrorist. But in the Islamic State, she's not a terrorist. That was normal.
She's not from there. She's not born there. So just move her out for a moment. She wasn't born there.
So the women there are considered terrorists by you.
I beg you, stop poisoning the well.
There were chicks that were Kurdish that were fighting for the Kurds. There were chicks that were fighting back. It was awesome.
Right.
Cool. But anyways, yeah.
So let's say a woman that didn't fight, didn't bear any arms, which wasn't the custom back then anyway, was it? Or was it? Tell me if I'm wrong.
Yes, it was.
I'd rather hear from Hassan. You.
Sorry. Repeat that again, bro.
I said, were women? Was it customary for women to take up arms at the time?
It was so, quote unquote. You wouldn't say necessarily take up arms, but there were many times where women would be like kind of on the battlefield, supporting things like that.
Yeah, but were they fighting?
From what I remember, I don't think that they were physically fighting. No.
You know what? Let me do a better one. Is there any famous female Islamic warriors? And don't tell me Aisha.
No, but the example that you brought up about Aisha was, like I guess, you know what, Isa, when she rebelled, did she actually fight as well? Do you know?
From what I know, she was just in a box on a camel, and it was because they had her. So she was kind of like
But when she was younger, we have evidences of her like helping bring water to people on the battlefield and like spraying around and stuff.
But what I mean is they were supportive of the thing. So if you had, for instance, let's say a man
Look, now we're focusing on women. You see how, forget the minutia. Now, if there is a woman who didn't do anything, she didn't take part in any kind of, she didn't even know. Let's be fair. There's some women that may not even know that she's only charged with taking care of the household, and as a result, her husband's died, whatever, they've lost this conflict. Imagine they lost everyone else lost the conflict against the Prophet. And now she's been enslaved. Her only silver lining, as far as you're aware, is the wilderness with which she's meant to have been saved from. That's what your case is.
Her only silver lining is that she is, so my perspective would be that the silver lining is that she wouldn't be left to a much worse outcomes.
Let's try it like this.
You get what I mean, James? Though, hold on, wait. Do you understand what I just said?
Not really, because I'm trying to point out a contradiction that I believe I've got. So
I don't know if you actually, because the last thing you said is not what we've been saying. I haven't been saying that like an older lady captive would be freed. I didn't say that.
No, but many people have made the case, and that's what I'm saying. No disrespect, Isa, but I'm not. Your position isn't interesting because your religion is perfect. So I'm trying to I'm trying to focus on the flawed ones, all the flawed people.
Yeah, sure.
So I would say that. So some people would argue that the Prophet came to free slaves, and that the end result that he intended was for all slaves to be free. And the reason he couldn't abolish slavery was because it was such an entrenched, it is entrenched in so many people to practice it, innit? So I'm asking you, his plan was to ultimately free slaves. Then in this unique scenario that I'm posing you, the woman who prior to slavery was in this wilderness until she was until they finally came.
I know where you're going with this. Yeah.
Again?
I understand where you're going with this, but finish for everyone.
So which one's better then?
So my argument would be that while the goal of Islam one of the goals may have been to moving towards freedom and this thing about slavery, at the time there were no institutions that would have allowed for there not to have been something like this slavery. So I understand what you're saying, like that the silver lining of kind of like being brought into Islam is that, you know, eventually you're supposed to be freed, but then you're being taken captive in the first place, right? That's what you're trying to argue, right, James?
And I'm saying, but it's like, really simply put, what the fuck is the point in the Prophet freeing people if he's doing them a solid by enslaving them in the first place?
Yeah. So it's not you're kind of, there's a little bit more nuance basically. So for example, when we say like someone to be freed, let's just say, generally someone to be freed like on their own, it would almost always just be males because of the danger that would pose to women. So it wouldn't just be.
Hold on. I need to go here. So let me just say something. Hassan, you are the biggest pretentious little prick I've ever met yet. Everything goes to Islamophobia and other people are dumb. Have you ever thought maybe you're dumb?
He's definitely smarter than you, though. Be fair.
Yeah, he may be smarter than me, but I know my limitations of my intellect. This guy's very arrogant, and he thinks he's smarter than what he is.
I agree.
You got me there, bro.
I know my limitations. You don't. Everybody thinks you're a filthy pig in the chat, yeah. So I think you need to look back and realize you took a massive L today, and I'm going to make sure you never forget about that.
Thank you.
Shut up.
Thank you, Raj. Thank you.
Shut up, man.